May 10th is Fentanyl Awareness Day. Hi, I'm Dennis O'Hara with the Stoneham Coalition for a Safe and Healthy Community. Today, we are going to talk to the president of the coalition about fentanyl awareness and what the coalition is doing to address the problems of addiction in our community. I would like to welcome Carol O'Loughlin, who is the president of the Stoneham Coalition for a Safe and Healthy Community. Thank you for joining me, Carol.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
So I want to start off talking a little bit about why Fentanyl Awareness Day is important and the types of things that people are doing to increase the awareness of the dangers of fentanyl on the day.
Sure. First, I just want to say I'm not a subject matter expert, but because of my work on the coalition, I've and a concerned, parent and family member, I have, tried to educate myself on fentanyl and just other substances of abuse as well. Fentanyl, as you may know, is an opioid that was developed for pain management for cancer patients back in the 1960s. But it's been abused and stolen and replicated illegally and smuggled in through, by drug cartels. My understanding is that about 80% of the illegal opioids in the world actually are in the United States. So we have a huge problem. And then it's sold on the streets, and it's sort of packaged as though it's not fentanyl. It's just mixed in with all kinds of other unregulated substances. So what it's being kind of marketed as a pain medicine or OxyContin or other opioids that people maybe have obtained from their doctors legally and then gotten addicted to, and then, purchasing on the streets. So they're sold as pills. Sometimes fentanyl is mixed in with fake Adderall as well. It's often cut into cocaine. It's often mixed in with heroin. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be fatal. So, and since it's unregulated, there can be anywhere from 2 to 5 milligrams in some of these pills. So it can be a one-time use and someone can die, and that has happened. So I think it's important that parents understand that and just know that it's more available than you might think.
Mm-hmm. So when you say it's mixed in with other drugs, I mean, these drugs already produce sort of a high on their own. So what is the point of mixing in fentanyl?
Well, sometimes the buyer of the product is not looking for fentanyl. In fact, oftentimes they think they're getting cocaine or something like that. And I think because for the seller, it's just cheaper for them to mix in these synthetic things with other substances, sell them as what they think the market wants. And then they really don't care that people are dying from this. They're looking to make money. So that's, it's just a completely unregulated space. And so unaware purchasers who may think they're getting, a certain type of opioid that they might think was produced by the pharmaceutical companies is not what they're actually getting. Mm-hmm. They might look like it. They may have the same, branding, but they're fake.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, no one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to get addicted to fentanyl. So how, for people that don't do illegal drugs, how do they sort of become introduced to this? Because I know a lot of people who have never taken drugs before. Next thing you know, they're addicted to fentanyl.
Again, this is just my from what I've read a little bit anecdotally. I think that I do think oftentimes when people get their wisdom teeth out or they have a sports injury, sometimes they get introduced to an opioid. And of course, it's much more highly regulated, and our doctors and our, clinicians are much less likely to provide opioids now for pain if there's another way to manage it. But sometimes after a surgery or an injury, this is how some people have gotten addicted and didn't realize they had sort of the potential to become addicted, and then they seek these once they can't get any more legally, they then sometimes seek this, and sometimes it's just peer pressure and that sort of thing, and children, in their teens, just not having fully developed judgment and brains yet, just kind of are not thinking about the dangers, and they feel invincible, and they're just thinking they're trying something or experimenting with something. So there are lots of different reasons that this happens, and that age group is extremely vulnerable to this because they don't have the judgment or the discernment, the ability to discern, the danger.
Sure. Now, so for parents or teachers or people, who deal with young people and or even, family members of adults, how do you sort of recognize the symptoms of addiction? I'm sure this works across the board, but particularly for fentanyl, we're talking about Fentanyl Awareness Day. But how do you recognize the signs of addiction?
That's a tough one. But I mean, there are some absolute signs. Sometimes parents don't want to recognize those signs, but actually, you might think that it's sort of, these are party drugs, but in fact, oftentimes this leads to isolation. So once someone actually has an addiction, they become kind of desperate and driven by that addiction. And so isolation may actually be a sign of addiction. It's not necessarily like a big social drug, frankly. And there are other sort of symptoms when someone is under the influence, and one is pinpoint pupils. The other is that there can be respiratory distress. That's when you're likely seeing the potential for an overdose. And so and then I think behavior that is related with accessing the substance is actually something else to watch for, which is some maybe phone calls that come at odd times of the day or night, sort of leaving to go meet a drug dealer at a time that it didn't appear to be something the person was getting ready to do, but they've gotten a phone call and off they go. So these are just some things that to keep in mind. Maybe if a person is sort of hiding things somehow, there seems to be always locking their car or bedroom or something like that. And so those are just some things to think about. Maybe who the kids are hanging out with, maybe their friend group has changed. So they're just a lot of things to look for, and particularly in teenagers who are living at home.
So, and the Stoneham Coalition for a Safe and Healthy Community actually tries to help the community sort of address these issues. Let's talk a little bit about what the coalition is doing to address the problem of drug addiction in our community.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'd just like to sort of share the vision and the mission of the coalition.
That'd be wonderful.
The Stoneham Coalition envisions a safe and healthy community, one that embraces substance use prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery. And our mission is that we seek to address substance use, addiction, and their root causes through education, advocacy, and support. So while over the last 2 years, you may not have seen us out and about a lot because of the pandemic, we've continued to meet and work on strategies to try to educate the community. So we do kind of appear at a lot of different events within the community. We'll when there's an opportunity to have an information table, we will be there. We have done a few fundraising events in the past. That's not been a big part of our focus, but those are, again, really to create awareness and just to kind of get people knowledgeable about the fact that we do exist. So we do a lot of education. We also were successful in getting a grant from the federal government to work on youth prevention. So we have a whole arm that's really all about prevention. So we're working closely with the schools. We have a youth coalition that we're working with. We have a youth coordinator who works with the kids at the high school, and we want to fan out to the middle school as well. So we're working on that. But this grant is all about prevention activities, from preventing vaping to marijuana to alcohol, and up to opioids and other highly dangerous. Well, they're all dangerous if abused. So all these substances. We have people from across the community involved in this coalition, very dedicated volunteers from our business community, our schools, our town, our first responder community. We have parents of people with addictions. We have people in recovery on this coalition. So we have lots of different stakeholders who are really informing our work and just, again, bringing to bear their networks and their contacts. We have providers, we have healthcare, regional healthcare organizations. We have the Mystic Valley Coalition as well, who brings us tons of resources. So all of this together kind of helps us address a lot of the aspects of substance use in our community. So we do have some events coming up where we'll have a table and information, and we'll sometimes our table will focus on different things. So we'll be at the Health and Wellness Fair on June 4th. We'll be at Stoneham Pride. That'll be a little bit more focused on just kind of family fun and just maybe mental health, and things like that sort of have to do with prevention and just acknowledging the stress that families are under right now and how sometimes substances can become an issue in those times. We'll be at the farmers markets June 30th and August 25th, and then we'll have some other events later in the summer and into the fall.
So thank you for talking with me today. If someone is interested in learning more about the coalition or would like to join or find out more about the coalition, how would they do that?
Well, first they can check our website. And we also have Facebook page as well. So check out Stoneham Coalition. And we also meet once a month at Stoneham Bank. In the last year, occasionally we make it a hybrid meeting or a Zoom meeting. So we're always trying to pay attention to safety. But we do have our next meeting, May 16th, at the Stoneham Bank in the Jan Houghton Community Room at 5:30 p.m. And we always are open. It's an open meeting. People are always welcome to join us to come learn more, learn about volunteer opportunities, and just join the fight against addictions.
Wonderful. Well, Carol O'Loughlin, thank you for joining us here today and to talk about fentanyl awareness. And you need any more information on that, we will have the link to our website in the description of this video. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.